Tribe. Bridget Patton here with Soul Massages. So I wanted to take a minute to hop in here and just bring a little bit of light to what's going on energetically. Because you guys know that I like to interpret the energy and what is coming in for us and how it's affecting us and influencing us. So the last several months I have been, actually it's been close to 2 years since I've been studying the Gene Keys. So if you haven't, I'll pop a link in here if you're interested in purchasing the Gene Key book at the end of this video. I really lean into it in the group of leaders that work in the sanctuary. This is something that we've been studying and implementing and working on for the last year and a half. So something that is coming up right now for people has to do with feeling some intense pressure in their bodies and also feeling elated and even hopeful and happy, but also feeling very uncomfortable and feeling a lot of breakdown happening inside of their body. Your body might feel sore. You might be noticing different parts of your muscles tightening up and you haven't even really necessarily done anything. So I don't really know where to start with this, so I'm just going to dive in. So if you're not familiar with the solar flares that are impacting the earth, that when they come in, I mean, the sun already influences us and affects us, but specifically the neutrinos that hit our atmosphere that go through the gates that the sun is basically shining on as it hits the earth. They have scientifically been proven to change form as they're traveling into the Earth's atmosphere. So when I look at that and I look at the different gates, they spend about 6 days influencing us each day or each cycle. And the one that we're in right now, 53, has to do with immaturity and expansion and superabundance. So when you look around you and you look at nature, there's abundance everywhere. You can see an abundance of mosquitoes right now in Michigan. So it's all about perspective. So how do we use what's available to us in order to allow for the transformation to go as seamlessly and fluidly as possible? The more that we resist the transformation that's happening inside of our bodies, the more uncomfortable it becomes. It doesn't mean that we aren't going to feel discomfort. We still will feel discomfort as we go along our journey, as we become more enlightened, because especially right now, the way that humanity is transforming and evolving, there's a lot going on inside of us. So any of the other videos that you've watched me communicate on, I talk about evolution and how evolution happens, you know, slowly over time, and then there's quick successions of change that go on to get us to where we're going. So humanity itself is in some very rapid successions of releasing the way that we think things are. That's because we're moving from our head to our heart. So what does that mean? We're moving from our head to our heart. So that means our understanding of our emotions is changing. How we interpret our emotions, how we understand what our emotions are communicating to us. So one of the things that I've always shared and talked about is how emotions don't lie. But one piece that I feel like is really key that maybe I haven't brought up before is that it isn't just that emotions don't lie, but you need to understand that our understanding of what we're feeling isn't always what we think it is. And so giving ourselves the space to feel the emotion that's coming up and observe what's happening before we start attaching our logical mind to it. And that takes practice. It takes discernment. It takes going deep inside of yourself to allow for your space without projecting or blaming or attaching to something outside of you that this is why I'm feeling this way. So when you look at your body, something that I absolutely love about the Gene Keys is, let's see here, I can't quite figure out what I'm doing. Anyway, so over on this side over here, this is weird, is amino acids and different physiological influences on each gene key. So the physiology of the 14th gene key, for example, is the small intestine, and the amino acid is lysine. So when you think about it, if the sun is impacting us and these neutrinos are flying through the atmosphere and you're sensitive and you're an empath and you're aware and you're conscious, it's going to influence you. Even if you've already done the work, there's constant change happening, especially right now. Yes, it's always happening. However, consciousness is expanding at a rapid rate. Our ability to understand that we're evolving is happening at a rapid rate. And yes, there are plenty of people that aren't on board with this yet and they don't get it, but they are still feeling it. They are still responding to it. They're still reacting to it. And so that's why it's an important study or practice to be aware of what's going on with the planets, because it does influence what's going on at a cellular level. And so one thing that a message that I got from the universe, I think it was at the beginning of last year, the beginning of 2020, was I kept hearing about the macro and the micro, the macro and the micro, and that's just what I kept hearing. And then when I looked at our cells compared to what's going on with the planets, I realized that that's seriously influencing us. And I know that we know that. However, each characteristic of all of the planets and how they impact us is what I've been studying. And it's absolutely fascinating. And what I have learned is that the chemical shift that happens when we have different minerals and vitamins and nutrients available to us in the atmosphere, which it does change depending on what the planets are doing, what's available in the atmosphere. So this is something I learned when I was pregnant with my third child. Our bodies are changing at a chemical level. And so our awareness is of these biological shifts that are going on. Our emotions are cueing us into what's happening internally. So just because we have a dense feeling or something that feels destructive, or maybe I call it riding on my broom, my family knows, like, I just feel like riding on my broom today. And so that is when things are breaking down inside of us. And we do need that process. It's not going to go away no matter how enlightened you get, no matter how spiritual you are, no matter what your practice is. You are going to experience the discomfort and the breakdown, because that is how it makes room for new. And that fire energy that breaks things apart inside of us and lights up the different amino acids so that our cells can be as healthy as possible are something our brain is starting to notice inside of our body. So if we can manage to stay inside of us instead of thinking it's something outside of us, or being triggered by someone, if we can realize that it's going on anyway, then we can ask the contemplative question, if it's going on anyway, what else could it mean? So you can come up with your own understanding of what that energy and what that feeling that's going on inside of you means for you without attaching to things outside of you. And this gives you a tremendous amount of power, because then you can be in your center and you can trust that even though you don't understand what's happening, there is a change going on and your body is changing. And when your body is changing, you're going to understand things differently. You're going to attract in new experiences. And we can't really know until it happens, because everything happens energetically before it happens physically. So it's not going to manifest in the physical world until after the breakdown happens. And so humanity itself is getting more practiced at this. There's groups of people that study this. We have a group ourselves. If you're interested in participating, we do have a year-long immersion that we're doing. It's self-paced and studied with our guides. And we've been really pushing the boundaries of our emotions and what it looks like to be in a group and experience these emotions ourselves without projecting. And we've all triggered each other. We've all gone in the darkness and the shadows with each other to understand what's really happening. And we've studied this. And so when you're feeling that charge of light that comes in and you feel really inspired and you want to create, and you feel like sometimes it feels like anxiety and anxiousness because your body isn't used to all of this high vibrational energy. So it's really important that we learn how to work with these frequencies and we learn how to work with the energy. And so spirituality is just the energetic influence and the emotions and things that we can't see. And so our brain isn't going to know what's happening. It's impossible. We can have an idea of what's happening. We can guess. We can set goals and all this other kind of stuff. But as soon as we get into the natural rhythm of what is being asked of us, we change. We resist. We try to come up with obstacles. We attract in things that prevent us from having to really embody what's going on inside of us. And so my invitation to everyone here is to consider what else could be happening when I'm feeling this pause. Now my kids are having their breakdown over here while I'm trying to talk. So what else is happening? How can I give myself space? How can I ask myself the question, if this is already happening, what else could it be? Because it is already happening. And when we come into contact with other people, and this is what I love about the Gene Keys, because you can actually look at your roadmap. You can see your Merkaba. You can see the spheres that influence who you are and how you're here. And then you can also see why certain people in your life, when you look at their chart, you can compare and look at the way your children, interact with each other. You can see why there's a trigger, but it's a trigger for growth. It's a trigger for expansion and for us to mature at a higher level. If we can keep our mind and our emotions balanced and allow for that next component to come in, your spiritual component, the one that you can't see, but you're willing to look at the patterns and look at the rhythms and see what symbology is coming up to guide you, so that your mind isn't attaching to the emotion and what's outside of you and how that's causing this. Because whatever is going on outside of us, although it may be impacting us and causing us grief and so on, collectively we're going through an evolution. So we all are getting opportunities to respond differently to how we feel. Meaning when we feel a certain way, we're getting an opportunity for our brain to be reprogrammed and think of it differently. Because then when it happens next time, you can respond differently and you can give yourself the space and the grace, honestly, to welcome in what's really for you. Because you can't miss what's for you. You came here for a specific reason. And yes, there is suffering. And yes, there is pain. And yes, it's discomfort. And there's breakdowns. But that's why we have so many people around us that we may not even see. If we're focused over here, we can't see the people that are over here. Every single time, 100% of the time, when I cut loose and I let that break happen, I let the breakdown happen inside of my body and I let go and I release, there's other people at the next level. Sage. All right, I need to tend to my children. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to connect with me, comment below, and I will put some links if you're interested in grabbing the Gene Key book or participating in this study group that we're doing over the next year. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.